Yesterday was the first time I really thought the Pacers could win the series.
Hello and welcome to the Hoop Collective podcast. We talk about the NBA, which we're doing on Thursday afternoon at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, Indiana. We did ask permission to have Dave MacMahon on the podcast, and we were denied. So instead, we'll go with Tim Bontemps.
Hello, everybody.
And Bam MacMahon.
Howdy, partners. Why'd you ask permission for Mac 10?
Well, it's a ask permission denied joke.
Oh,
Current
I got
events.
it. Whoa,
Good job.
I was just wondering who denied
Sorry,
it.
I'm a little fatigued, a little
Good question.
tired.
How's your back?
I've been better.
All
I've
right.
been better. Let me loosen up.
You did throw down some buckets at Hinkle Fieldhouse, though.
And I also smoked a ton of layups.
Neither one of us played very well, though. I didn't play against MacMahon.
The Achilles is intact. I
Thank
showed
God.
up.
I did feel a little bit bad.
Yeah, Bontemps. No, I'm still.
I got a few comments about your Achilles.
My
line.
Achilles are still undefeated. I was not. I did show. I saw the last 10 points or so of Bontemps' second game, and then I played the next three. You want a scouting report on Bontemps?
Yep, I do.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. Bontemps' basketball game is a lot like his podcasting game.
Oh, I see.
He talks a
Awfully
whole
good.
lot,
Uh-huh.
talks a whole lot, and contributes not much.
All I'll say is I watched the first 3 minutes of MacMahon's game, and there was one foul called in the first two games. He called 3 in the first 90 seconds. That's how that
Well,
went.
he being a
The
tall
guy-
gentleman, he likes to
Yes,
officiate.
he likes-
The guy
likes to
who
officiate.
the guy who guarded
On
me
point.
The guy who guarded me called the first two fouls. I would have let him go. He did hack me. I do have bruises up and down my arms. But it's okay.
MacMahon, Shaq, one of the same.
I'm more Zaza than Shaq, I must admit. And I love Zaza, but the man would smoke a layup, and he could not jump over this sheet of paper.
All right. So I don't know if you guys heard, but the Pacers won Game 3,
They sure did.
Yes.
and they are now 2 wins away from their first championship. And I just want to say something here before we even get into this. I'm just going to point out the Pacers have not lost 2 games in a row since the first week of March.
It's pretty good.
And
If that holds,
yeah.
they will win the trophy.
That's a good point. And the whole 29-1 against the Eastern Conference thing for the Thunder, we can throw that out the window because they are now 1-2 in this series. So, the Pacers have proven this ain't going to be some kind of waltz to the, to a parade in Bricktown. That's for sure. Are the Thunder still the betting favorites? I really haven't
They
looked.
are.
Okay.
They are.
That's
Obviously, it's
interesting.
reduced.
Yeah,
If you really, really believe in the Pacers, if you believe they can win 2 of the next 4 games, you can get better
Good
than
value.
even money.
Put your money where your mouth is.
What a well-played basketball game. Beyond all that, honestly, I haven't heard what you don't agree?
I thought the Pacers played great. I thought the Thunder were sloppy. And I thought the Pacers created some of the Thunder's slop. But, dude, TJ McConnell intercepted 3 inbounds passes.
Well,
you don't see that
It was
very
not
often in
Alex
a high school game.
Caruso's finest game.
No, but that was the 3rd inbounds pass
Right.
that McConnell. I mean, McConnell, the energy, he changed the game in the second quarter, and Mathurin changed the game in the second quarter. And then, dude, if it's close, advantage Pacers big time. They've been outscored in 3 of the 4 quarters in this series. They're plus 27 in the fourth quarter.
Plus
That's
27 in the
series.
fourth, minus 33 in the first 3. Look, let me just say this. The Thunder were up by 5 going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I know it's here. I know that the Pacers close. If you want to win the title and you're up by 5 going to the last 12 minutes, you got to close that.
Well, and when Jalen Williams he hit a nice, it was a pretty tough pull-up 3 going to
played
his
well.
right at the buzzer. It was a big-time shot, and that felt like, wow. He hit some big-time shots in the last couple rounds, but that felt like the biggest shot of his career. Now it's a footnote because of the way the Pacers, wow, did they dominate the fourth quarter on both ends. Shea was a complete non-factor in the fourth quarter. The Pacers got whatever they want and gave
Chet
nothing to
Holmgren
OKC.
started hot and just faded down the stretch.
Yeah, look, we talked a lot the other day, sort of in formalities about this series, certainly including me, led by me at some points. And, well, everybody was saying the same thing. But
I said it was going to be 2-2.
You did, and
Which
then you
means
refused
we have
to,
a guarantee by Wendy.
and then you refused to predict which game it would be. Did a semi-prediction.
No, it's a guarantee now. It's not a prediction anymore. He guarantees a Game 4 win for OKC.
I know. He did it again.
I said what I said.
But the look, I did not think after the first 2 games that the Pacers could dictate the terms of the game and in the series, the way it went. Like I thought, like we talked about, if the Pacers had another game like Game 1, where they were plus 20 at the three-point line, they could shoot the ball well, they could win the game. If you told me the Pacers are going to go 9 for 27 from 3 in a game, I would say they
especially
got no at home. I say they got no chance of winning that game. So the way they were able to dictate the way the game went, a buddy, longtime scout, texted me at halftime and said yesterday felt like the first game of the finals because the first 2 games, the Thunder, yes, they lost Game 1, but they led for 94 and a half of the first 96 minutes. They were in control of most of the games, and that was I know the Thunder were a little sloppy. I'm with you. That was an unbelievable game. Yeah. Great back and forth action.
I thought everything that happened over the first 3 quarters where the Pacers were doing a lot right and the Thunder were ahead by 5.
Both teams were playing great, but like that yesterday was the first time I really thought the Pacers could win the series because I didn't think they could do that to the Thunder. And from wearing the Thunder out in the fourth quarter, like we've seen them do to the Cavs and the Bucks and the Knicks before that, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was out of gas late. Jalen Williams was out of gas late. Chet Holmgren was really rough late. He was out of gas late. They're picking up full court. T.J. McConnell stealing inbounds passes. It's all the stuff we've seen the Pacers doing throughout the playoffs. And the biggest thing is Tyrese Haliburton, after being mostly invisible through the first couple games, hit some shots early, had 22 and 11, was a dominant factor in the game. And when he plays like that, when he has 20 and 10 in a game, the Pacers are 20 and 1 this season. That's the number one stat with them.
I agree. Let's talk about Haliburton in a second first because you brought up the Pacers defense. We got some Stats Williams work here. I'm holding it in my hand right here.
Oh, yeah.
So the Pacers had 11 blocks and 13 steals. McConnell had 5 blocks, 5 steals.
Miles Turner had 5 blocks, 3 on Chet Holmgren in the fourth quarter, despite being sick.
Chet Holmgren's got to stop driving. These drives on Miles Turner are just drives to nowhere.
Well, and Chet made a point that if he's got to get to 2 feet in the paint because when he goes in there and he's out of control, he's admitted.
He's trying to do these lollipop layups.
Yeah, and those are like if he's going to drive, he's got to drive and jump stop, and then he's got options instead of just trying to throw something up over Miles Turner, who Chet has the advantage driving against most centers. Miles Turner is not most centers.
Well, no. Chet's pretty proficient with both hands. I mean, he has potential to be a terrific driver, but in the fourth quarter,
he's a good. I mean, for a 7-footer, he's good with the ball. He's good getting in the lane. But like MacMahon said, when he's trying to do these like 1 foot loop around layups, he's just getting demolished at the rim.
Last night was the second time in this series, and both after losses, obviously, that Chet has used the words "I got sped up." In regards to what he was doing off the dribble.
Yes, and that's how he looked. He had a great first quarter. It looked like it's going to be a repeat of game 2, and the line looks good. I think he had 20 and 10, right? Like the numbers overall
all 3
look
of
good.
J-Dub, Chet, and Shai all has scored over 20.
Yeah,
but your record's pretty good when that happens.
Yeah, for sure. But look, like Pacers, the second unit. I mean, we'll talk about the defense. We got cut off.
All right. First team to have more than 11 blocks and steals in an NBA Finals game since the 76ers in 83.
Wow.
Faux.
It's a pretty good team.
Faux.
According to Genius IQ, Chet's average pickup, which is where they picked him up when he had the ball.
Shai.
Was 65.5 feet from the basket. So
sounds familiar.
The most telling
94 feet long. So.
The most telling thing about that stat, that is the furthest away from the hoop of any game in his career, regular season or playoffs. They made it. I mean, Nembhard is such a pest, and he's just up in his skin. Well,
it's not just him.
The entire
it's Ben
court.
Shepherd. It's him. It's T.J. McConnell. It's whoever's on him.
Primarily Nembhard, but yes, all those guys. Shai only brought the ball up, related note, 23 times, the second fewest in a game this
also sounds
this
familiar.
Postseason.
A lot like last series against the Knicks.
Yeah. Right. And it's Shai did not have a blow-by on a drive, just the 4th time since he's been in OKC. He went an entire game without a blow-by on the drive. So that's especially impressive when you're picking him up that far and he's not able to get a step on you and blow by at any point. The 6 turnovers for Shai, playoff career high.
He had 6 turnovers, 6 free throws.
Yes, and
that you don't see very often.
Only 7 assist opportunities.
I doubt that's
Only 7 assist opportunities. That's the fewest of a playoff game this year. And in the half court, they're giving him hell too. Blitzed him 12 times, most ever in a playoff game. And by the way, on the other end, they're attacking the hell out of him. He was a primary defender on 22 shots, the most ever for him in a playoff game.
Right out of the gate, the Siakam was posting him up right out of the gate.
And so look, Shea looked exhausted in the fourth quarter.
The Thunder all looked exhausted in the fourth
but
quarter.
Shea in particular.
This is what the Pacers have done over and over and over again in the playoffs. It's what they did to Jalen Brunson in the last round. It's what they did to the Cavs. It's what the way they play. There's not many teams in a long time, like Rick Pitino coached in the NBA 25 years ago and was pressing full court coming out of Kentucky.
Yep.
People are like, what the hell is Rick Pitino doing with this college stuff, right? But the Pacers have this system where they're playing 9 or 10 guys. They're playing these mostly all bench units. They've got T.J. McConnell doing T.J. McConnell things, and that's working. And, like, through the first 2 games, it did not seem like they were going to be able to do that to this Thunder team. And for them to come out last night, and, there's some outliers. Benedict Mathurin had the game of his life. 27
9
points.
of 12 in a finals game. That's
obviously, some of the steals, like some of the inbound steals.
By the way, 27 points, the most in a finals game by a bench player since
Jet Terry.
For the 2011 Mavs, coached by
Rick Carlisle.
There you go.
By the way, had this on TV this morning. So we have betting data going back 35 years. The coach who's won the most finals games as an underdog.
Rick? Because they were all under. I mean, he won 4 in 11 and now 2 in this series.
I don't think Rick has been. I'm not sure Rick has been favored to win a single game he's coached in the NBA Finals.
Well, I know he's got 6. So he's only got 6 finals. Not only he's got 6 finals wins.
I don't think he's ever coached a team that's been favored to one game.
The Pacers, the last 3 rounds, I think have only been favored in 2 games.
Yeah.
When they got up 3-1 on New York, they were favored in 5 and 6.
They might not be favored in a game this series. That doesn't mean they can't win the series. As you said, Rick has done that before. This team ain't scared.
Producer Jackson says they're 5.5 point dogs in game 4.
But they really, as Shea completely controlled the entire game 2, was comfortable every step, just an MVP masterpiece. There were very few times he was comfortable at all, and I thought the fourth quarter he was completely out of gas. He only got up 3 shots in the fourth quarter, only made 1, didn't have any assist. Dude, they couldn't guard the Pacers, and they couldn't generate anything offensively. That's how you get outscored.
That's what these guys do. It's what they've done over and over again. It's why they've been so good in the fourth quarter. It's why they've had all these comebacks. And look, I was talking to the
Thunder. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. I was talking to somebody because you mentioned Rick. Obviously, you've got a long history with Rick. I was talking to somebody a couple hours before the game, and they were like, "Look, been watching a lot of film last couple days, and Rick's been cooking up some stuff, and we'll see how it goes." I'm like, look, the Pacers are realistic. Like, the Thunder's, we've talked about it. There's a reason we talked about it in the way we have, right? 68-win team, all the stuff, all-time great potential team. But they came in this game like they have in the last couple rounds, and Rick has been in a ton of big games and a ton of playoff games, and I think, his experience, I think, played a role in the way that game went. And, when we get to Haliburton, they did some different stuff to get him going. They did some different stuff to get the Thunder off their game.
Yeah.
And the Pacers just have this remarkable ability to force teams to play the way they want to play. And typically it's been because, like we talked about a lot, they have weak points that they can attack. In this game, they just created the weak points. And, I mean, like I said, last night was the first time sitting there, I was like, the Pacers really can get 2 more wins and win this series.
Okay, so Haliburton. The big stat for me, I've said it on a bunch of platforms. I probably said it on this pod last night, but if I'm repeating it, I'm sorry, because I thought it was so important. First 2 games, he had the ball 208 times. He got into the paint 16.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about shooting in the paint. I'm talking about
touch paint.
Foot in the paint.
I don't have the updated stats, so it'd be better if I did, but I say he got 16 in the first half.
Well, and related, they got 50 point paints. Or
50 paint points.
Paint points. Compared to an average of 34 in the first couple games. That's 16-point difference in a game you win by 9. That's pretty.
So
massive.
he talked about how really he studied the film the couple of days they had off. You can't really practice in the finals. Like today, these teams did not practice. It's the shortest turnaround.
Yep.
I got to tell you, I remember when there was only one day off between all the games. I don't remember what that was like.
I remember what it was like in the second round, and it was to the Thunder's advantage then because they were playing a much thinner team in Denver. That's when they came back from.
No, I'm talking about in the finals.
I know.
Yeah,
they're not playing a thinner team now. Then they're not playing a plotting team either.
So anyway, Haliburton, he's not like he can run through this stuff in practice. So he spent his time on the off days just really looking at the film, saying, how can I get into that paint? Mm-hmm. And so there were probably some nuanced stuff that I will never know about. But from what I saw, it looked like he definitely was trying to take some different angles. They were starting the screens in different spots.
He was going left more. Alex Caruso talked about that last night. I asked him, what did he do to get going? He said, some of it was just he shot more, which is a big thing. He just needs to be more aggressive. But he also said, he likes to go right. He was willing to go left more today. And that Caruso, goes back to the same thing, aggressiveness.
Well,
he's aggressive. It's all different.
Caruso knows the scouting reports too well. He always heavily tries to let him go left.
And another thing, where Rick used to back in the day call plays every single possession, you know what he says every single possession now? 3 words. Pace, pace,
yes.
pace.
That's one word 3 times, buddy.
It's 3 words. Pace is 1, pace is 2,
by the way,
pace
to that
3.
point, transition offense, right? Mm-hmm. Pacers, not a very good half-court offense team. Certainly not a good half-court offense team against this Thunder team, right? First 2 games of the series, they had a combined 23 transition plays and 23 transition points.
Yep.
In game 3 alone, they had 17 and 21.
Yeah.
That's how the Pacers are dictating the way things are going.
A lot easier to do when you force 19 turnovers. By the way, the Thunder were the best team in the league this year in terms of turnovers committed. They committed the fewest turnovers in the league. 19 turnovers in a pivotal finals game. Now, Haliburton wasn't on the floor for some of those. Some of the pick sixes by T.J. McConnell, but still.
Especially in that fourth quarter, they were tired passes, cross-court passes, the inbounds passes where just kind of, just get it in, lazy, not thinking about it plays. And the Pacers are just relentless, and they're always on.
They were not conceding inbounds after baskets.
No. They weren't conceding anything.
Right.
And even Pascal Siakam got a couple of the run-out baskets that he gets in the past. They did all the stuff that they've been doing the whole time in the playoffs.
I've been blown away by the Pacers' ability to score off the other team's made buckets. Now they're scoring off their own made buckets.
Yes.
I know. The one where Caruso just tried to loop it in, and
that
TJ
was the biggest play of the game. Because I think
it was a 6-point game at that point.
It was 4 points. Going into that possession, it was a 4-point game. In the start of the fourth quarter, like you mentioned that shot Jalen Williams hit at the end of the third. Start of the fourth quarter, both teams were making shots. Shea's on the bench, Haliburton's on the bench, and both teams are going back and forth making a bunch of shots. Isaiah Hartenstein made a crazy runner. Yeah. Jalen Williams made a bucket. Mathurin made a couple shots. They're going back and forth. And then McConnell misses in the lane. They get the offensive rebound. Nembhard makes this jumper to cut it to 2.
Like a 14-footer.
Yeah, hits a little baseline jumper. And then Caruso tries to lob the ball in. He steals. McConnell just jumps up, steals it, lays it in, ties the game. I've covered a lot of playoff games here, probably 20 maybe. I've never heard the place as loud as it was last night. It was like going back to the 90s at Market Square Arena.
Well, and it was loud all night. And then our colleague, Pat McAfee. Oh, he had that wrestling little routine going.
He had that going. And
seriously, the fourth quarter, it was up there with Bricktown as far as incredible. The decibels.
It was an incredible atmosphere. But that 4-point swing and tying the game, I think at that point it totally – you could feel the air come out of the Thunder a little bit because they kept staying ahead. They were making shots and staying ahead. Soon as Indiana caught them, they just went right by them.
Well, and look, the Thunder, they won 54 games in the regular season by double figures. They had the best point differential in NBA history. Mm-hmm. Their regular season clutch numbers aren't bad, but they're a tiny, tiny sample size. And it's been mixed results in the playoffs. They had the 2 clutch losses against the Thunder. They were able to come back, and Shea was able to close in game 4 and 5 and kind of get them back right in that series. They were able to close a close one in game 4 against Minnesota. But the Pacers, we've talked about Haliburton being on one of the most, maybe the best individual clutch run ever. The Pacers are now 9-1 this postseason in clutch games. That's the most clutch wins in a single playoff run since the Heat in 2020.
Because typically, if you're good enough to get this deep into the playoffs, you don't play that many clutch games.
That's right. And they're now 10-1 in games decided by single digits.
Yeah, that's the
and there are 7 teams now that have won at least 10 single-digit games in a postseason run.
Read them off.
The other 6 have all won the title. The 78 Bullets, the 89 Pistons, the 2010 Lakers, the 2011 Mavs, the 2007 Spurs, and the 2002 Lakers.
Those 2011 Mavs coming up again. I'm telling you, this thing's got Rick Carlisle just all over.
When it was sort of a similar kind of team and a similar kind of run.
Hey, McConnell's playing. I know that JJ doesn't play the same type of game that McConnell does.
But
No, it's very
backup
similar.
Point. I told you, I talked to old Jose Juan the other day for the story that Jamal and I had on, like, the roots of the success for Haliburton being, and Jake Kidd kind of taking the reins from Rick reluctantly giving the reins to Jake Kidd back in the day. But, like, when I brought up TJ McConnell, Brea lights up. He says this is one of his favorite players in the league. Because it's the same, like, they walk in the YMCA for pickup and they don't get picked first.
Well, my favorite.
Like, are you serious? But they're just complete pests that are having massive impacts in finals.
My favorite moment of that game last night is after McConnell makes this ridiculous play and catches the inbounds pass and lays it in. Did you see what he did when he ran down the court? He did the safety sign.
He did do that. I saw him do that.
Did it 3 times. Which, for people that don't know, the referee puts their hands together. Above their head and goes for a safety. He literally did it 3 times, going back down.
But it's not a safety.
It's
a pick 6.
Well, I understand that, but I was just like,
I did see that. I think he was making the motion to his dad.
I mean, he might have been, but
So I'm not sure
it
if
was
that was
just
a family
he's the ultimate irritant.
And when those, you mentioned the one in the fourth quarter, but I believe the first 2 were in the second quarter.
Yes.
When he makes those plays, like, it wasn't a great first quarter for the Pacers. When he makes those plays, it just breathes, like, the bench goes crazy. The crowd goes crazy. You know, he's like firing the crowd up. This place is going absolutely bananas. I mean, I know he didn't go to Indiana, but he looks like a damn Hoosier. He ought to come out in some of them Jimmy Chitwood shorts. You know what I'm saying? Some of them little
I've said that. Well, he went to Arizona after he went to Duquesne. I went to watch T.J. McConnell play against St. Bonaventure in Pittsburgh at Duquesne University. God knows how many years ago now, probably 2011, and he was a nice freshman point guard in the A-10. I was like, he's going to be a good, like, Pittsburgh kid going to Duquesne. Obviously, a school in Pittsburgh, he's going to be a good player in the A-10. And then they had a coaching change, I think, and he transfers to Arizona. I was like, he's good enough to play at Arizona? I didn't think that. And then, no, he's a good enough to play at Arizona. He's had a 10-year NBA career.
Made a ton of money.
And now he's making massive plays in this playoff run.
By the way,
he's the definitional process sixer.
He is he is the fruit of the process.
Him and Robert Covington.
Him and Christian Wood?
No,
not Christian Wood.
Well, listen, Embiid can't call himself the process anymore. The process is playing for the Pacers.
Yeah, McConnell, again, like, it is just a fact. This Pacers team, there are so many parallels, truly, to that 2011 Mavs team. One sort of centerpiece star in Haliburton, a bunch of complementary players that fit around him.
Doesn't play a game that different than Marion.
No, I mean, that's the similarities there. You've got Tyson Chandler and Miles Turner, a rim protector. I mean, obviously they're different players, but like,
they don't have a Dirk, but I hear you. Like, the one star, a very good supporting cast.
And then you got the mad tinker on the sideline figuring out ways to trip up a highly favored opponent. And that Mavs team also going through the playoffs wasn't like they were favorites in any of the series.
No, they weren't favorites in the second round when they swept.
I feel like
Kobe and the Lakers, and that was Phil Jackson's final series of his career.
I feel like they weren't even necessarily favored.
By the way,
you know who else
the Mavericks beat in that series or in that playoff run? Oklahoma
the Thunder
City
in
Thunder.
the conference finals. Were they even favored to beat the Blazers in the first round?
They were 3 seeds. So this is funny.
Well, that was seen as a toss-up series, right?
This is early in my days of being accused of being a Mavs hater. I did pick the Blazers, and then I picked the Lakers, and then after that, I'm like, all right, I'm just picking Mavs from here on out.
Well, you did. You picked them in the final.
I did pick Mavs over Thunder and Heat.
Worked out.
All right. Well, I'm excited about tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, look, like these are the best games.
2-1,
2-1 with the home team with a chance to go up 3-1 as the underdog in the series, and 3-2 with the home team and have a chance to close it out at home. Those are the two. Obviously, Game 7s are great, but those games where you have the high seed, the favorite on the road, having to try to get themselves back in it. We saw it. You were at Game 4 in Denver.
Right. So this is the same situation they were in Denver. What do you compare to where they were in that series?
Very, very similar. Game 1 was stolen from them / they blew it.
Yep.
Talking about OKC. Game 2, nice, comfortable win.
Dominated Game 2.
Game 3 had a lead, then
they got outplayed by the home team. Same with Denver. Denver outplayed them in Game 3. Deserved to win.
Game 4, my takeaway from Game 3 in Denver, the image that I remember first is Shea walking off the floor with a big smile on his face. And me asking him about it post-game, and I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but basically said, I'm never going to let somebody see me rattled. Think they
unless it's Andrew Nembhard.
Well, we're going to get to that. He said, I'm never going to let somebody think they're getting to me. And then, the fans were talking some talk to him. And then he said, and I'm smiling because I know I've got an opportunity in the next game and the next game. And in those 2 games, SGA came through as a closer, which he had not done in the 2 losses in that series. So let's see. We've talked about Shea's, listen, if he finishes off, this is one of the all-time great seasons for a guy just entering his prime. I mean, this is, I think the Thunder, you never say never. I thought the 2012 Thunder would get more cracks at it. They didn't. I think this Thunder team will get more cracks at it, but this is the kind of game that can be part of a guy's legacy.
I mean, this is to this point, this is the defining moment of his career.
Now,
this guy won MVP. They're down on the road. They all of a sudden, the team that was heavily favored to win now has some real pressure on it. And how is he going to perform? And look, he, like you said, Game 4 and 5 against Denver, he was great. Turned that series around. They go on to win in 7. Can he do it again?
Now,
and because this Indiana team is going to be ready to go, they're going to have a ton of confidence. They didn't shoot the ball well. Like they've been shooting the ball great in these playoffs. I'm sure they're going to think they can hit a ton of shots. Like, this place is going to be unbelievable energy-wise again. And it's the finals. It's not the conference semifinals. There's a different level of microscope. So how's this young Thunder team going to handle it?
You mentioned Nembhard getting under his skin. We watch games. We see stuff. They're televised. There's film. We can put some clips up if Jackson would actually do a little bit of work, which is questionable, but I bet you I can prod him into it. Barry Trammell, a legendary columnist from Oklahoma, now working in the Tulsa World, known as the guy who would get next question by Russ for years. Anyways, Barry's noticed this, and Barry's asking about it, and nobody wants to talk about it on either side. He asked Nembhard about it. Nembhard kind of, dismissed it.
Barry Trammell's a veteran columnist who knows his story.
He knows a hot button issue. He asked Shea, and Shea said, I just had it queued up. Golly. Sorry, man.
This is good podcasting.
No.
Gee Willikers.
Hold on. The damn technology. Here's the question. I'll do it in my Barry Trammell voice. You seem a little more emotionally agitated in this series by Nembhard than anybody else you played against this year. Is he doing extra to get under your skin? Is it because of your long history together? Shea. Shea, when he doesn't really like a question.
So Barry has told me he listens to this podcast. I think he might not be listening to it anymore after that.
No, that's a good Barry. I'd say it with love. Yeah, anyways.
That's fine.
Anyways, you know how when Shea maybe doesn't love a question, he never he doesn't next question. He's not Russ. He's calm. He's cool, collected. He just kind of gives you that little look. Not a smile, not a frown, just a little, He gave him one of those. And then he said, I'm not too sure. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't feel emotionally agitated at all.
He elbowed him in the head 8 seconds into the game.
I don't feel emotionally. I'm reading what the man said. I don't feel emotionally agitated at all. So I don't know what's going on. But I don't feel emotionally worked up at all. And then he gave one of those big Shea smiles. So who are you going to believe? Shea or your lying eyes?
I believe what we call it is actions over words.
That is a definitional action over words situation.
Before we go, I don't know if you heard. The Knicks have asked, as of this recording, they've asked for permission on 5 NBA head coaches and been denied on all. And their coaching search is looking a little shaky.
Shaky is one way to put it.
They fired a coach fresh off a conference finals appearance, and their whole plan is maybe another team will let us hire their good coach.
Well, by the way, it should be said so Wednesday morning in the New York Times, Tom Thibodeau took out a full-page ad thanking the organization, the players, the fans. Very classy thing to do. And then
very old school,
but a very, very classy, nice thing to do. And like we talked about, this is this guy's dream job. Obviously disappointed about how it ended. And I would have paid to have a camera on Tom Thibodeau yesterday as one report after another of coach after coach after coach was being told, yeah, we're not going to let you talk to our coach. I can only imagine the smile and the laugh that he would have.
This smile
said.
where he only smiles with half his mouth.
Yeah.
I've seen the smile before. I can close my eyes and see it in my head.
This is where we need our old pal Friedel to come in and do his Tibbs impersonation.
Chortling. Look, it is not unheard of. It happens somewhat regularly that a team would want to hire a coach who was coaching another coach.
A coach.
Right. In fact, as I've said before, it happened right here when Rick Carlisle resigned as coach of the Mavericks, which Dallas was ready to let him go. He had, maybe he didn't have the job totally locked down, but the Pacers knew they were hiring him.
Well,
the irony of...
I'm going to say one thing there. And Bontemps, you know what I'm about to say.
I am.
I think the
Pacers
confirm. Were. I can tell you, I'm very, very confident saying the Pacers were Rick's bird in hand, but the Bucks were the one in the bush. The Bucks were down 2-1 in that series to the Nets at the time. If Bud loses that series, he gets fired.
But the point is,
Rick Carlisle was getting another job.
The point is, as the Pacers were preparing for their coaching search, they were eyeing a coach who had another job, who they knew they could get.
They knew they could get. They knew that they knew Rick was going to be available.
Right.
There was no secret Rick was on shaky ground at that point in Dallas. Rick asked Cuban for an extension. Cuban said, Rick, I ain't going to do that right now. And Rick said, okay, I resign. Adios, amigo.
Right. Okay. So I'm just saying it happens.
That's not the end of the podcast.
I'm just saying it happens. Okay. So the idea that the Knicks would take a coach under contract somewhere else is not unheard of.
No.
But typically you have an idea that can be doable. You certainly forget about whether you even want to go after 6 of those guys. The idea of stealing a coach from a team that has just come off an excellent season where the coach is in strong standing, like say Ime Udoka.
Well, forget even that. It's one thing to ask for permission on a coach, have him say no. The thing about this that's wild is that they've asked for almost 20% of the league's coaches.
And there's no other candidates at this point. Like there's not like a recent head coach you're interested in or an up-and-coming assistant coach. I mean, I feel like we're about 24 hours away from seeing that they asked for permission to interview frickin' Jordan Ott.
That's a good line.
Thank you.
I will say the Billy Donovan one is more plausible. Even though
there's 2 until they have a coach. I think there's 2 that are not off the board. One is Jason Kidd, one is Billy Donovan.
Until they have a coach, or until Jason Kidd maybe gets an extension.
Well, right. Until we hear a shoot, because both of those guys are in a position to get extensions with their teams, right? So I would say until there's another shoe to drop in either of those situations, either Billy Donovan, who's a Long Island native who played briefly for the Knicks, would be a guy that would, I think, excite people in New York.
Also,
excite the back pages.
he resigned as Thunder coach when the Thunder were about to begin this rebuild.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be there for a long rebuild. I know the Bulls have been dragged.
So he just went to a never rebuild in Chicago.
We don't even need to go through that. There's the Bulls' job, and there's the Knicks' job from a talent standpoint, and then there's
but he's left a job in the past.
Correct, and there's also the ability to go back home and be the Knicks coach.
But again, I also though, and maybe this would be the case at this point as well, but I do believe that was more of like a mutual parting of the ways. You remember Preston told the whole thing about how he took some Coronas into his meeting with Billy.
I agree.
Yeah, but the bottom line is, regardless, I think until we have certainty that that's over one way or the other, I'm leaving the door ajar on that one. And we have seen Jason Kidd get out of a lot of situations. I'm not saying he's going to. I think MacMahon's point about an extension is also very plausible. Yeah. I'm just not saying 100% no on those two.
I do think Kidd certainly at this point has gone. Like, I still wouldn't totally dismiss it, but it's unlikely.
The other three, Quinn Snyder, Ime Udoka, Chris Finch, are not happening.
Okay, I would also say this. The Knicks are going to pay. They have to pay.
Yeah, well, yeah.
The Knicks have always paid.
But they're really going to pay now.
They are.
Okay. And while you will be going into a tough situation because your standard is better get to the finals or something.
Clearly. Or something.
You will be going to a team that is built out.
Yeah.
That's a really good job.
Yeah.
You got a ton of money, a lot of talent, and an Eastern Conference that, while I think the Pacers clearly should be favored as the team to beat going into next season, there's not a monolith sitting there. There's not a, Warriors dynasty team sitting there. We go, man, we can't get by them, or the Celtics of the past few years that have been seen as that kind of team. That team doesn't exist right now.
Look, I'll just say this, and I'm not saying this is apples to apples, but this reminds me a little bit of when the Lakers hired Frank Vogel. Now,
also available.
He is available. The Lakers, they tried to hire Monty Williams. They tried to hire Ty Lue.
Was a similar kind of search. They've flailed around a little bit.
Yeah, and it was like they hired Frank Vogel, and the day he was getting introduced, Magic went on First Take and lit Rob Pelinka up.
Yeah.
And Frank Vogel just sat there and said, got it, and won the title the next year.
And Mac 10 asked the one tough question he's ever asked in his entire career.
Oh, no.
I didn't say that out loud. Sorry. Mac 10, he was bragging. He had the last win in the pickup game. It was at my expense, so he's been talking a little talk. I had to jab him a little bit.
Yeah.
But, God, who was the first choice?
Monty Williams literally got offered
Monty
both
Williams,
jobs.
And then there was a dispute over money.
And then
Ty Lue.
Ty Lue, they lowballed.
Right.
Monty literally chose the Suns, had both offers, chose the Suns. And I feel like there was one more that I'm not forgetting. I feel like Vogel was at least fourth string.
Yeah,
minimum third, though.
And Mac 10's question was something like, with all due respect, you weren't the top choice here. Yeah. And whatever the question was.
He was like, Frank, welcome to Los Angeles. Oh, thank you. With all due respect.
Welcome to Los Angeles, only because like four other guys didn't take the job.
Well, listen, look, the NBA is the ultimate results business, right? And so whoever the Knicks hire, if they go on to win the finals, whoever it is, then none of this in the end is going to matter. But it does speak to the rather remarkable situation that has existed there over the past few weeks, where you're literally coming off the best 3-year run in a quarter century and the farthest the team has gone in a quarter century. Instead of going, man, the Knicks have this core coming back, they can add to it, they should be able to potentially be one of the maybe co-favorites to make the finals next year. Instead, it's the Knicks are in complete disarray.
Yeah.
They're asking for every permission for every coach in the league, getting told no. What the hell are they doing? Where are they going? And it's just a wild sequence of events when they were playing Game 6 here 2 weeks ago.
They've just had 4 years where we've been like, wow, the Knicks have made a lot of good, smart, sound, rational decisions.
And have been totally aligned.
And you know what?
Yes.
Now they are not.
Might do? They might ask the Pacers and the Thunder, like, hey, you guys are going to be going back to OKC. Can you swing by New York and let us chit-chat with the coaches for a little bit on the travel day?
The Pacers haven't been this far in 25 years.
That's right.
The Knicks weren't this far in 25 years. When they didn't win the championship, gone. If the Pacers don't win 2 more games, I mean...
Oh, listen.
Right?
I had an executive in the league ask me yesterday, when are they going to... What's the number where they're going to stop? I said, why would they stop? Go call Joe Mazzulla. Go call everybody. Just call why call Ty Lue?
Well, once you've been said no 5 times,
what's the difference? 5:25? Just ask everybody.
No, it's about 1:55 a.m. Bar closes in 5 minutes, and the Knicks are desperate.
But actually, I disagree with that. They're not desperate. They're
Well,
just
they're
embarrassed.
They're volume scoring at this
They're
point.
not desperate,
Doesn't
but
matter how many no's you get. Just takes one yes.
look,
as they would
here's
say
what
back
I
in
would
the
say.
day.
They're not desperate. They have a very good job.
Was that what you teach your boys? Is that how you
Absolutely not.
They are not desperate, and they have a very good job. But it is surprising and frankly odd that, like, look, I talked about the idea of Tom Thibodeau being in trouble during the Pistons series. Like, if you were around the Knicks at all, it's not like this was a decision that came to 3 seconds after Game 6. Like, well, we were going to keep Tom. Something happened. We decided we had to do something different, right? This was, as we've talked a lot about, this was right. Tom wore everybody down personally. So if that is the way you were thinking over a long period of time,
how could you not have a better plan?
Right. It's not that you had to get the first guy. It's that there seemingly is no plan.
Why is this process so sloppy?
Part. Considering that Tom's under contract, I think, with the Knicks for 3 more years.
For $30 million,
maybe it'll get to the point where they ask themselves for permission to...
Yeah,
maybe it'll be an extended sabbatical to come back and coach the team.
They'll just get to the end of the paperwork and not pay attention to it.
It's just
right.
it is
Jamal
just
Collier's
crazy.
about to do a Sports Center hit. We're going to shut up. So that's enough. Thank you, Bontemps. Thank you, MacMahon. Thank you, Jackson. Thank you, Rafa. I hope everybody enjoys Game 4 Friday night on ABC. Thank you for watching, listening to the Hoop Collective. We'll talk to you after the game, where we're going to have another guest. I don't know about he's special, but we're going to have a different guest.
Trust me,
it's already out there.
They asked at least 5 people before they got to this one.
Because it's already been announced.
But announced by whom?
By us.
Not everybody
ESPN.
follows ESPN PR on freaking Twitter, you nerd.
The guest tomorrow. It's been announced for the pod tomorrow.
It has been?
Yeah. I'm not joking.
ESPN PR announced it?
Yes. It's correct.
You're big time.
They announce everybody that's on air for Game 4, and they announce who's on the pod tomorrow.
Tony Romo, Jason Witten, Terrell Owens. Adios, amigos.